Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, today we're going to start working on some interior bits and pieces. I've started stripping, let's have a look in here. Started stripping all the wiring. There's our new wiring loom, which has come in from below. We've got the original fuse box, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it's savable or not. It might be. I'll pull it out and see if we can clean it and go from there. We do have a brand new one anyway. That is pretty cool, obviously being a very, very early one, so it'd be good to keep it. Speedo. Now we're going to get that out. I did get the old fuel gauge, which obviously wasn't originally in at 55. So it was an aftermarket fuel gauge, but of course it is completely destroyed. As you can see here, there's nothing left of it. You know, I pulled out the original switch. That's gone too. The flasher. All that stuff's pretty much junk, unfortunately. Yeah, so look, I'm not sure whether or not we plug this up and just run the reserve switch down here and keep it original. Just have to do a little bit of patchwork. Anyway, let's get this, I've undone the bolts for this one. We can actually pull him out. Should just be able to slide that. There you go. All right, let's go and have a look at this thing, because I do have a restoration kit for the Speedo, and what we can do here is have a look on the back, and yes, it does say 5th month of 55. So pretty cool. It's very, very early. We're going to restore this, and I think we might just start doing that today. Like I said, I have a kit which will give me a new needle and also a new face as well, but you never know. We could potentially end up using that face. So let's go and set this up, and I will give you a rundown of how to do this a restoration on a Speedo. So one thing we're going to do just before we go and start tearing it down, as you can see here, I've connected up the Speedo cable and just connected it to the drill, just so we can actually watch and see what's going on here to make sure everything is working. Now obviously the needle has snapped, but if you watch here, and I get the drill to start, you can see there it goes. So it does work, and also the miles actually click over. So mechanism's good. So that means, you know, it's definitely worth restoring. Everything's working there, and you can see there if we go nice and slow. Beautiful. All right, so let's go and get some bench space and get this thing pulled apart. Okay, so here we are on the bench, giving it a good clean. We've got these little globes, which they're going to be fairly rusted, I would say. These are the little terminals. That's broken screwdriver, that's not going to work. We can pop these globes out. Should lights come out. Might just have to bend these out a bit. Next thing we've got to do is come around the sides here. Mechanism looks pretty good. A little bit of surface rust on it, but it's not bad at all. Pretty good. All right, what we do want to do is get some lubrication on those spots there, and we're going to have to get him off, which is always a scary thought. Now what we want to do is we're just going to go and put this in the vise. You're going to use this little tool here just to take off the needle. Hopefully it comes off without snapping, but we're not using it again, so it should be all right. So I just put it in like this and gave it another quick little thingo and it just shot off. So yeah, I don't even know where it went. It went flying across the shed, but it's off and it didn't break anything, so we're sigh of relief. It's always hard getting those things off the pin, but the pin's fine. We've got no issues there. What we need to do now is just undo these two little screws here. You need a very fine screwdriver for that. They should come off pretty easily. And that's just going to basically take the plate off. And then also with this, it actually takes that part there off as well. So you end up with, this is what's going on. Bring you back over here to the light. You can actually see the original colour, how much that's changed. So now what we do have here is a kit from Wolfberg West, and it's a restoration kit. They're not cheap. But if you want to put some new parts onto your Speedo, then this is what you need. So we've got a new needle, we've got all the bits and pieces in here, got a new little face plate, got the gels, the gaskets, new face. So we've pretty much got everything we need here. Glass, whole lot. And of course they give you some instructions here. Shows you there what it's going to look like once it's finished. Okay, so I did go and find the little part for the Speedo needle, because you actually need that. What ends up happening is you have to pop it back into the new one like so to get it to work. So we're going to use that. I found that, which is great. There's our original face. You can see that was the original colour there. I just don't know. I'm going to, I mean, here's the new one, and, you know, it hasn't got video on it, and it's obviously not the original face, so I think we might go with the original one. I don't know. What do you guys reckon? Go with a brand new one or go with the original? I think the original kind of looks, it's got character. You know, it'll have a new needle on it. Anyway, what we're going to do now with our mechanism is I like to wind these back to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It's a little bit complicated to do it. What you need to do is this little pin here, you need to grind a tiny bit around with the Dremel so that you can actually pull that pin straight out. And of course it's going to completely, sorry, take two, not that one, this one here, that little guy just there, that pin there. What it does is it disengages all these little cogs, and then allows you to be able to spin all your tumblers back to 0, 0. And then all you got to do then is push it back in and then crimp, or just put it, you know, I just tack a little bit of weld on the end of that, or crimp it with a screwdriver so that the pin won't back out again. So yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll you can see it's got a little bit of movement in it already. See that? So all we need to do is just come over on this side here, grind that little bit, and then we can push the pin right out of the way, and then we can put these back to 0, 0 again. What I've done in the past as well is that winding, that little copper winding there, I had one that was completely knackered, and I rewound it. I don't know how I fluked it, got it recalibrated, and it worked perfectly, and I just saved it. So I mean, there's enough of these around that you probably don't need to do that anyway. So this little screw here, you back this one out like so. And what that does is it disengages the cogs now here, so that they can move freely. Anyway, let's disengage this thing and we will get it back to 0, 0. Let's use the little Dremel here. That should be enough to back him out. And then watch all the tumblers fall out. So what's going to happen now is once I pull this pin out, shit's going to fall everywhere. And then we have to make sure that we keep everything in the right orientation. So here we go. Out we come. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to keep the camera straight. And out comes the pin. So what I do now is we have to just quickly, well, you don't have to go quickly, but what you can do is just move them out of the way completely. Bit of tweezer action. And what we'll do is we'll take them out and put them in their orientation. And of course I did take a photo of all this as well, so and that one can stay there. Now we can freely just move these where we want. Okay guys, so one of the next things you want to do once you've you pull all the little sprockets out, take a photo just so you know what orientation they have to go in. They've got a long side and a short side. And then what you do now is just get your cover plate, and you're going to put some tape over the bottom of the barrel. Make sure your 00s are all lined up, and then just pop this on top and make sure that through the window you've got the zeros perfectly in the window. You don't want them like that or like that, otherwise they won't read properly. So just make sure you do that as a little line up. You want them looking like that. Perfect. So then you can get rid of this, tape it up, make sure it's taped so that the barrels don't move, and now you can start to go and reassemble all the putting all the sprockets back in. And look, it is a hard job. Patience, you know, if you're into model making, you'll probably pick it up pretty easy. You just got to slide the pin in and then start with the first one and then keep going and move along. And again, just go through your look at your photo, look at the orientation of the sprockets. There is, on the sprocket itself, I don't know if you can see, but there's a long tooth and a short tooth. Just make sure all the teeth are in the same orientation as you go along. So I'm just going to double check my picture and make sure I've got them all right. Yep, so that means we're all good. You can see you've got the picture there. So we're going to go with the long one straight off the bat. Just dump him in there, and then you just got to you've got to fish around and just put them where they need to go. Like I said, it'll take a bit of time to get this to work. Trying to not bump you guys with the camera is another thing too. So pop him in here, and you just, you know, you got to just kind of move him around. The little tweezers I've got is probably the way to go. Okay, so if you have a look, and this is the part that you've got to get right. If you have a look in here, you've got a larger tooth all the way along lining up, and then the shorter tooth on the top. Okay, so that's critical. You can't have a short tooth and then a long tooth and then a short tooth, or get them mixed up, otherwise the synchronization won't work properly. So make sure you've got a little tooth level all the way along the top. Make sure your numbers are level along the bottom. Put your pin in and you should be good to go. Okay, so we're going to put this back together now. What we need to do now is just on the tip here, because we've gone and ground that little flat, you can just crush that and it'll stop it from sliding out, or put a bit of, you could put some JB weld on there or whatever you want to do. And then of course just make sure, don't forget to put the cog back down, this little guy here. Don't tighten him back up again, otherwise it won't work. There we go, done. All right, now we can take the tape off, and they should be all nicely lined up. Okay, just like so. So what we can do now, you can test that if you want to put it back onto the drill and just make sure that they do cycle, but I know that's going to work because that's how I pulled it apart before. Take the photo before you pull it apart. So next thing now, we can start remounting the face onto it. So we get our face, pop our face on, little screws I should say. There we go. So that's how we're going to look, and then we can put the needle and start doing the rest of it. Now before we go any further, we're going to give this a sandblast and clean it up. I don't know how we're going to go with these parts here, they're a bit dodgy, but we'll see how we go. Let's just go and chuck it in the cabinet and have a quick blast. Well, there you go guys, straight out of the sandblaster. It just cleans it up, makes it nice and presentable, fixes all the little copper pickups there. So yeah, nicely saved. So what we'll do now is, we've got obviously the new chrome bezel and the little back plate part as well. So we're going to reuse all that, or this new one. Anyway, this one here's a bit on the cactus side, so I think we'll leave him alone. And we've got new glass too, so we can basically stash that stuff and go with some new bits and pieces. So let's get it back installed. These little globes, we'll have to change them out to 12 volt because that's what we're buying. So what we're using for the whole electrical system is going to be 12 volt in this thing. So we'll just change the globes over, but you know, self-explanatory. They go into their little holes. Okay, so that bit's done. What we also need to do now is the gels as well. So these are the gels, and they're obviously all different for different models. Okay, so you can see what's going on here. And there's our lights from behind and our indicator flashy light. So they're all working good. I've just taped them. Put a bit of clear tape and then a little bit of masking on the sides because I don't trust the clear tape. Let's mount this back inside. So that can actually go back inside its little hole here, like so. Our little washer and our bolt nut. That part's done. So what has to happen now is when placing the needle back into its posi, you have to work out exactly where it was before. So if the needle, you've got the little peg here, this little peg here, so your needle would have been resting against the peg. Before, obviously, this needle on ours was snapped, but I did take note where the snapped needle was sitting, right? So it was here. So what happens now is that's where I've got to remount it onto the shaft and then press it up over the top of the peg so that it puts it under tension so that the calibration will be correct. So just make sure when you pull your needle off, take it over the top of the peg first and see where it lies. It might be here, might be here, might be down here like that. And that's where you're going to put it back on again. Otherwise, you'll be completely out with your calibration. And then you're going to have to come and pull the whole thing apart again and remove it. So just take note of that. That's the new needle here. And we've got our little part that has to pop on top of it, like so. All right, so you can see here, this is where the needle for mine needs to go. I pretty much lined it straight up with the 40. So you can see there, I'll just place it on top and we're going to push it down slightly. And you can see now that's under tension. And now what we do now is take it over the top of the thing like so. And you can see now that it wants to ride back home again. And now I can just push that down and I know that is where it has to go. Okay, so next we got to put all the other pieces back together again. So we've got a bit of a formula here of all the parts. So first off the bat, we need to put on, we need the chrome bezel. We've got the chrome bezel here. The chrome bezel, we need to put seal A, which is the somewhat thick seal. So this seal here goes, get you into the photo here. This seal goes inside here. It's got to go into that little groove. There it goes, all the way in, like that. Next goes seal B, which is the thick one. The thick one goes next, like so. Seal C goes on there, and then we've got to put the trim on. Okay guys, so what we've done is we've just put all the layers together, the new glass and the seals that go inside, and then that's ready now to be pressed back onto the gauge itself, like so. So we've got our two little tabs that go either side, like so. Now we need a fine little screwdriver. This one, put some pressure on it. Got that side's in, put a little bit of pressure on it, and we've got to get that final part in. Okay, so that's all crimped back. And we've got our final gasket here, which this one's going to go onto the body. Like so. Alright, so let's go and have a look at this thing in the bus. Looks kind of cool, doesn't it? And that's how it's going to look. Very nice. That'll do the job just nicely. All right, let's give this guy a little test here. I've got the drill. Now you do need to put the drill in reverse, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that before. And just don't go too crazy with it, but here we go. You can see it's working. Now, with the little tumblers, you'll start to see the one move if I keep it up. There we go. All right, so there you go. That's all we're on to now. Okay, guys, well, as you can see here, 9 degrees, and it's cold, man, I tell you. I reckon I'm starting to look like Philippe with my little beanie on. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next video. Woohoo, I'm going inside, it's getting a coffee. Woo, it's cold. Catch you in the next episode, guys. See you later.